Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. If you like Portal, sit back, grab a cold one. This was one of the craziest 72-hour stretches that I can ever remember in the Portal. It's only going to get crazier. I think Monday with 12 more elite teams were eliminated since Thursday night. So think about the players on those teams that could end up in the Portal. I think it's going to get crazy, but this is what I want to do. I want to spend I don't want to say just a few minutes, probably going to be a long segment, talking about everything that happened in the Portal over the weekend. The last time we did a Portal deep dive was like Tuesday, although I did do a Donovan Dent segment on Wednesday or Thursday. So let's start with all of the Portal news dating back to Friday of this week. We'll start with commitments and we'll do visits, news, notes, whatever. But speaking of commitments and speaking of Donovan Dent, let's start there. I know it's a little bit old at this point, but I got to give credit where it's due. Mick Cronin, I was not familiar with your game. Okay, so as I mentioned, the last time we talked Portal on the YouTube channel, I did kind of a quick segment on Donovan Dent. I had a lot of people hitting me up, Torres. It feels like his recruitment is ramping up. And I'll be real, I did a huge segment on him. And basically I said, look, is that two things. Was that all the buzz indicated that Kentucky was the leader at that point. And I said on this show, point blank, end of story, I said, I just don't know if UCLA is the kind of program that's going to spend the kind of money on a player like Donovan Dent that you need to spend to land him. Listen, I'm just going to say it. The going rate for elite transfers right now is about $3 million for an individual player. We can argue, is it right? Is it wrong? That's what the cost is. And so for me, it is hard for me to blame, and I don't care about the prices, okay? But at the same time, I just didn't think UCLA had that kind of budget to land a player like Donovan Dent. Well, apparently I was wrong, because about 48 hours after I put out a video saying that Kentucky was the leader, he commits to UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. And I got to give credit to Mick Cronin, man. Listen, first of all, I'll say this. The video that I did on Dent made quite some rounds in the UCLA circles. I'll be real. I think UCLA is in a little bit of a better shape financially than I realized. But there's nothing else to say. Credit to UCLA. Credit to UCLA for identifying this kid. He's a SoCal kid. He played at Corona Centennial. And I think the thing that's important too, he wanted to stay in LA. He wanted to be a Bruin. He was recruited by UCLA out of high school. I think they kind of went in another direction. But I just bring it up because I didn't think that they had that kind of money to land that kind of player. But they do. I think their NIL budget behind the scenes is a lot better than a lot of people realize. And now you add Donovan Dent with some of the guys that they could have coming back, that they should have coming back. This team has a chance to be very special. I saw John Rothstein say something to the effect of he believes they could be a top 5 team coming into next season. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but Tyler Bilodeau, I assume Adai Mara's coming back, Eric Daly. This is an elite team. UCLA fans, you roasted me. I deserved it. Credit to you. I think Donovan Dent is about as good as anybody that has entered the portal all offseason, and you landed him. Let's keep it going quickly on other commitments. This one caught me by surprise, to say the least. Treysen Eaglestaff. Okay, so we've talked a lot about him. Played at North Dakota this year. Was one of the leading scorers. Really, I wouldn't say he's one of the leading scorers in college basketball, but he's one of the microwave oven type guys of college basketball. Averaged, like I said, between 18 and 19 points per game, a little closer to 19, 35% from three. But remember, we've talked about this. 40 points against Bama, 51 in the conference championship game, okay? And so he enters the portal. There's a lot of Kentucky buzz early. I assumed Alabama would get into the mix. And then on Sunday, wake up to the news that he has committed to South Carolina. So credit to Lamont Paris for getting this done. I'm not ever going to criticize a player or coach or whatever for a decision. It is surprising and not surprising. I think it's surprising to me. South Carolina, listen, it's not surprising because South Carolina needs way more offense than they had this year. One of the slowest tempos in all of college basketball. They really relied on their defense. They really just didn't have a guy that could just go out and get buckets and make a play. And so they needed a guy like this. And listen, I don't have all of the details, but I'm sure that they basically, spent top dollar for him. Again, it's this world. I have no problem with it, whatever. The counter to that, though, is that, I'm just surprised that this kid wanted to go there because South Carolina does play at a very slow tempo. I don't know that the offense will fully be able to be featured the way it would be in a Mark Pope system, in a Mark Few system, in a Nate Oates system. So it's surprising, but hey, credit to South Carolina for getting it done. This guy, I would expect him to be their leading scorer. By the way, I know I said South Carolina didn't have anybody that could really get him a bucket. Obviously, they had the star there. Colin Murray-Boyles was phenomenal. They needed some offensive help. They get it in Treysen Eaglestaff. Last commit from the weekend, then we got to get to some of the big news and notes. I did not get a chance. I got a lot of requests to do a video on Kam Williams, 6'8" forward, who did commit to Kentucky on Friday. If you listen to our portal update on Tuesday, we actually did talk about him. So my buddy David Sisk from Rivals was the first one to kind of have this piece of news. 6'8" forward from Tulane, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, was a true freshman this year at Tulane, all AAC, averaged about 9.5 points per game, 41% shooting from three. And what's interesting about this commitment, of course, whenever Kentucky, whatever, there's a lot of, he only averaged 9 a game. He only played at Tulane. It's like, listen, ask NBA scouts about this guy, because NBA scouts are like, yeah, that dude could play in the league if he's developed right. And we know he is going to be developed right under Mark Pope. And so to me, I look at the decision by this kid to come to Kentucky, and I look at the decision by Kentucky to recruit this kid. I think it's perfect. I think it is actually a perfect fit. Let me explain why. Listen, we know that Kentucky has kind of needed that small ball 4, stretch 4, whatever you want to call it. They went after Caleb Wilson in high school. Nate Ament is still available. But to me, it's like, are you going to pay top dollar for a true freshman who's never played college basketball? Or go get a dude that's probably, frankly, a lot cheaper, and then spend way less money for a dude that's played college basketball, that's going to produce, and if everything works out, has NBA upside. And so to me, I love the fit of this kid. Now, look, Kentucky has a lot of work to do still on this roster. At some point, we'll talk about their offseason. We'll kind of look ahead to their offseason. And certainly, they've had an interesting couple days in their own right. But they needed that stretch 4. This is the kid that they get. Listen, this is a kid that it wouldn't surprise me, almost like Otega Oweh, where we're talking about him. Nobody was talking about Otega Oweh as an NBA prospect at this time last year. Would not surprise me if Kam Williams came into the SEC, was very good early, and we're talking about him as an NBA prospect next year or the year after. So credit Mark Pope for getting his first commit of the 2025 recruiting cycle.